What's up guys, and welcome to my latest video here on SP Vids. Today we've got the SP404-MK2 on the table, and for a bit of fun I'm going to be running some beats through the analog heat. Now I've been using this on my beats recently, so I wanted to make sure that the beats that I'm showing you are running through it as well. But that's not what this video is about today. This video is about 3 things that I've changed in my beat making workflow to improve my beats. I think it's definitely improved the process, and I think the overall sound that I'm getting is also noticeably better as well. I'm getting some really cool sounding beats at the moment, and yeah, I wanted to share these tips with you. Hopefully they help you as well, or at least maybe give you some ideas to experiment with. That's really the reason I share videos on this channel, guys. I just want to try and help you guys to make better beats, get better at using your samplers, and yeah, so that's what I'm doing today, sharing some ideas, 3 things that I think have helped to improve my beats, particularly on the SP404-MK2. I'd say you could probably apply these to other samplers as well, but yeah, on the whole, they're pretty much geared towards the SP404-MK2. So let's start off with banks and organization. Now I actually did a video about this on Tuesday, and this is a very recent change because it happened after I made that video. I immediately switched to using 2 banks per beat straight after I made that video, and I think I just realized that the 8 chops was a little bit limiting. So with this method of having 2 banks per beat, I'm now able to have 16 sample chops in the first bank, and then in the second bank that's just free for my drums. Now this is looking a bit bare because I've only got 3 drums in it at the moment, but I could put in vocal chops and things like that afterwards as well, so I've got loads of space left over here in this project. Whereas when I was just using 1 bank, I was restricting myself quite massively with the chops, and I realized after making that video it was a bit of a mistake. So yeah, I've gone back to 1 beat per bank button basically instead of per bank. So you only get 5 beats per project, but you get 16 projects. So there's plenty of space for beats, and yeah, it's allowing me to get much more variety, and crucially, it's allowing me to make part A's and part B's for my beat, which I really like doing. So I'll show you an example here. All these beats which I'm going to show you in this video, guys, are made with Lo-Fi Drums Volume 6, all the drums. So if you did want to pick that pack up, you can go ahead and do that through my shop on spvids.com. So yeah, here's an example, and actually first of all I will show you the chops. So the chops here, really nice sounding stuff, and I've pitched that down quite heavily. I've taken it down 7 with the pitching, and those chops just sound really nice. And this is the beat which I came up with for this. There's a part A and a part B, so I'll show you both of those now. And here's part B. So you can see there that having those 16 chops has really enabled me to make that beat sound much more interesting by having those 2 different parts. I think I'd really struggle to come up with 2 different parts with only 8 chops. So that's my first point. I've moved to 2 banks per beat, and I'm already finding that that's much better for the style of beats that I like making, and it's given me a lot more room to play around with things as well. Okay, the second point is to do with MFX. Now, bus MFX on the Mark II is just absolutely amazing compared to what we had on the SX. So you can see here the way I've got it set up. If you use the value wheel, you can change the structure of bus 1 and 2. You can see that's type B. I have it on type A. Now what this enables me to do, and it's been helping me massively with making my beats, is when I'm sampling in a sample, I can have up to 4 effects stacked on it immediately, even before it's recorded into the machine. And that has just been helping the process of making beats a lot for me. I would always sample in a vanilla sample, and then probably all I ever used to do was have my buses set up like this, and I'd use bus 1 to apply an MFX on the sample chops and then bus 2 on the drums. Now I can have up to 4 effects stacked on a sample before it even is recorded onto the machine. It just means that I don't have to go through that tedious process of resampling the sample over and over again. It saves me a lot of time, and it means that my samples are sounding more interesting as well. So obviously you can go ahead and experiment with whatever effects you want here, but usually I would say I only use 2, so I don't really use bus 3 and bus 4 when I'm sampling in, but I'll have my bus 1 and bus 2 like this, and then on bus 1 I tend to use 404 vinyl sim. It just adds a little bit of flutter and a little bit of texture, which I really like. And recently as well I've been using lo-fi, so I'll have those two stacked and I'll record in the sample with those two effects applied straight away. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear, but on these sample chops you can tell that those effects have been applied. So in this chop, for example, you can hear it's got that kind of old school SP1200 ring to it. That's from the lo-fi effect. And yeah, the 404 just adds a really nice bit of texture as well. So that's the second thing that I've been doing. That's been helping me a lot. I think my beats are sounding more interesting. The samples are sounding more crunchy and more lo-fi, which is the sound that I'm always going for. And on the whole, that's just helped me massively. So yeah, like I say, you can stack up to 4 effects if you wanted to, and you can get creative as you want with that. But yeah, in my opinion, it just saves a lot of time, and I've been enjoying doing that very much recently. Okay, my last point is that I've been chopping up samples into smaller sections, and I've found that this is really helping me to mask drums. I think that's the main thing that it's doing. It's also enabling me to make more intricate and interesting patterns, I think, as well. Whether that's just psychological, I don't know, but the first point is definitely legit. It's really helping me to mask, in particular, snares. So I'm not very good on the theory side of this with explaining it, so I'll just try and make it as simple as possible. But if I go to the second beat which I've made here and show you that if I hit these pads, you can see there all my chop points. So in the past, I would have done half the amount of sample chops for that. So if you imagine, that would have been 1 pad, and then that would have been 1 pad. So this total thing that I've got here would have only filled 8 pads. But what I've been doing now is, and I think this is right, I'm sorry if I got this wrong, but I think I'm now chopping on every beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whereas in the past I would have gone 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm basically chopping double the amount of chops. Now it's meaning that I'm having to be more selective with the pieces of music which I'm sampling in, because I'm actually getting less sample time because I'm using the pads up quicker. But like I say, with the masking of the drums, so 2, 6, 10 and 14, 4, 8, 12 and 16, now those would have all started with a snare just because the song is 4/4. But you hear how you can hardly hear it? That's because I've used envelopes. So if I go to shift and pitch speed, you can see I've got a fade at the start, and that's just cutting off that snare sound. If I take this off temporarily, hear all those snares? Now I don't want those on my samples because I want to put my own snares over the top. So I've added this little envelope, and I'll put it back to 4 if I can, if it'll let me. Now, you can hardly hear those snares at all. It's absolutely amazing. I love using envelopes for that. So because of the way I've chopped those samples, it means I can put an envelope on every snare in that passage of music. And that means that I'm masking the drums a lot better. The same with 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 and 15 as well. They would have all been kicks. But again, I've been able to use the envelope and mask those out as well. So I think this is allowing me to get much smoother sounding beats, and it's allowing me to use music that's already got drums in it and you can hardly hear them. So this is another beat I've been making. I think I actually did this as a short, but I've made a part B as well now. there we go. I think that sounds really smooth. We've got the 2 parts as well. I really like the sound of that beat. The analog heat's doing some work there just to add some extra texture and lo-fi goodness. But yeah, that 3rd and final point really, I've been chopping on every beat and it just seems to be making things much better, much easier, and I'm able to make smoother sounding beats, smoother sounding patterns. So that's it guys, 3 things that have changed in total. I changed to the 2 bank strategy, so instead of doing 1 beat per bank, I'm doing 1 beat every 2 banks. I've been adding effects when I'm sampling things into the unit straight away. I can do up to 4, I usually do 2, that means I'm doing a lot less resampling, so it's making the beat making process a lot faster. And finally, I'm chopping up my samples on every beat now. I think that's right, hopefully I've got that right. And that's meaning that I can mask out drums easier and overall just get a smoother sound and come up with some more interesting sample chop patterns. So hope these help you guys. Thanks very much for watching and thanks for your continued support. Big shout out to my members as usual for supporting me monthly, I really appreciate that. Pick up those drums if you want using the links below, and I will be back with another video very soon.